What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It's my favorite day of the week. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. We got Mike Ryan in studio with the leather jacket and the new physique.
It's a bomber.
We got Pete behind the boards.
Jacket. It's not leather.
Oh, bomber? I don't know the difference. It's black. I wasn't really paying attention. So anyways.
Thank you to Anijar and Levine.
I'm locked in to this show. I am locked in to the Canes and what needs to get done to finish the portal season. Mike, welcome. You want to hop in, Pete, here?
Pete, hop in. There we go. Well,
is he? Hey, there he is.
Hey, Peepers. Peepers. What's up, man? Hey, good to see you. Happy New Year. Although Larry David said yesterday was the last day I could do that. But this is the first time that I've seen you. So I feel like we're okay. Happy New Year, Canes Inside audience. It's also the first time that I've seen you in a couple weeks. Tough couple of weeks. We had one spectacular half from the offense with Cam Ward missing 3 of his top 4 receivers against a top 5 pass defense in the nation, possibly solidifying a top 2 draft pick. Hopefully it's number 2.
Cleveland Browns.
No.
Don't you care about Cam? Don't you care about Cam Ward and his future? You want to be throwing in that wind and that cursed franchise?
If there's anybody that can dig them out of it, it might be Cam Ward. Look, you want to talk about cursed franchises. It hadn't been great down here for the last 20 years. Cam Ward came in, changed the fortune of this program, gave them, I would rank this year, even though it was missing that signature win. 2017 had that amazing moment. So 2017 probably gets a nod for a singular moment. But this was the best team in like 20 years. This team beats that 2017 team. Although Sharif's might have thrown for 400 yards against this defense. We know it was flawed. It's not like 2017 didn't have plenty of flaws on its own. Kind of got lucky. We know what that year was. This feels like we're building towards something sustainable. However, we've just lost the quarterback that changed the program's fortune around. And we look around, we got a quarterback that everybody somehow feels worse about now than ever. Emory Williams, like he beat Clemson his first year. He came in against Ball State and he balled out against Ball State. Not hard to do. One of the worst teams I've ever seen in my entire life play the University of Miami. But he was making strides at practice. But we were all kind of worried, especially when held in direct comparison to Cam Ward. And if that were a test, as we've covered, as I'm sure you guys have covered, as sure as I am that everyone here knows, Emory, if you head into the season next year with Emory Williams, that's not going to be great. Now, you can still win, but I think winning big is off the table.
I mean, look, Mike, I came on this show day after day with veins bulging in my neck saying, let's take Fernando Mendoza. He is a incredible upgrade over Emory, and people treated me like I was a Cuban supremacist, right? Like I was just making, he's a Cuban Emory. He's the Cuban Emory.
We still haven't discounted that. Aside from the Mendoza.
I'll get to the Mendoza thing in a second because you and I were having a heated debate
keep
there
rolling.
Before. Well, Joseph Von Donaldson is saying that I've lost some hair in my time off. Now, I will have you know that your boy came on home a little bit in the entradas. I just didn't like the comb over, even though it was very effective with the stationary camera. I felt cheated.
Not everybody can pull it off.
I felt like I was cheating the audience. So I'm just going to lean in. Your boy's pushing 40. All right. We're going to lean into the entradas a little bit. I didn't lose the hair. It's just I'm not pulling one over on you anymore, Joseph Von Donaldson. But yeah, Mendoza. Let's talk about it briefly, though, because the fact remains, it's not a thing anymore. He's gone. Like, if you want to continue to mourn the loss of Mendoza, and in retrospect, hindsight's 2020, say we should have gone for Mendoza. I firmly believe Mendoza is better than Emory Williams. However, this is what I will say. Even if they go this cycle without getting a quarterback, which I don't think will be the case, there's a lot of time. But even if they don't, there is a spring portal that opens. And with all the uncertainty surrounding college football, I imagine that's going to be a more active spring portal than previously. So, you want those guys in for spring camp, whatever. We also know we don't want Emory Williams as a starting quarterback. So you take what you can get. Mendoza's gone. That ship has sailed. There are good options out there, be it graduate transfers, be it people still playing in the playoff, be it people that have declared for the NFL draft as if that's a thing. Hello, we had Cam Ward. We saw that hostage video that he had last year. What I'm saying is breathe easy. I think everyone knows now, even in that building, he's not the guy. He's not the guy to take you where you want to go in year 4. You're going to be taking a step back. Now, you may get a guy that has NFL prospects, and it's very likely you could still take a step back. That is a difficult schedule. However, it's a difficult non-conference schedule, and getting to Charlotte is still very much in front of this program, and they can get to Charlotte even with Emory Williams. You have to change your identity. Emory can't make the throws that Cam Ward can make, but by the way, who can? Who can make the throws that Cam Ward can make? So you become a team that's dependent on the line of scrimmage. You build running first, and you lean into your strengths. There's a path there. But I'm not going to capitulate on this like you are, because everybody in the comments is panicking, including you.
Oh, yeah.
You had a damn near panic attack, and you were just saying Mendoza this, Mendoza that. Mendoza's fine. I think they will end this pursuit with someone better than Mendoza.
Well, let me ask you, talk about running the ball and leading us to wins. I mean, we ran for 300 yards against Iowa State and had a 31-point gift from Cam Ward. We still couldn't bring it home. So, I mean, we're going to run for 500 yards.
Well, you got to get
with Emory.
Well, you got to get a new DC, and one half of that equation is done. On the DC front, I can tell you, I know there might be some people frustrated how long this takes. Welcome to the Mario Cristobal experience.
Yep.
This has always been the case, be it talent acquisition, be it filling out his staff. Mario Cristobal doesn't necessarily adhere to the timelines that are put out there by fans, right? I think early next week at the absolute earliest on a DC hire. Keep in mind, there are games still being played, and I think that also has something to do with the delay. At least in your minds. I actually don't classify this as a delay, D. I think that this is, look, Miami, it's not like talent hasn't been signing up to be a part of Miami on the defensive side of the ball, even with that position being vacant.
Hasn't impacted anything in the portal.
At all.
I'm so not interested in the DC. I shouldn't say this as the host of a Canes Inside podcast, but the DC search, when the name comes in, we'll deal with it. I've been around so many of these coordinator searches because we fire coordinators every year. I've talked to tons of people with info on all of them. Everybody's always wrong until the very end. It's just one of those things. Cristobal always screws up the timeline because it's his timeline. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but screws up what we think the timeline is. So to me, I'm not too worried about it. The recruits paid off, or the portal guys paid off. I'm good with it. I want to talk about a couple things. First of all, you talk about Emory as potentially the guy. I'm not sure Luke Nickel doesn't come in and beat him out in the spring. That's one thing. I already had that script written. Yeah. I just waiting for it to happen so I could say it on the show. I had the scripts written out.
You and I have been Luke Nickel guys for a while now, and I don't doubt that. However, going into next season, a season of expectation, the centennial season for the Miami Hurricanes, you want to follow up year 3. You know, lose by a lot, lose by a little, win by a little, win by a lot. That's a 4-year plan for a recruiting-based head coach, is it not? You don't want to enter that year 4 plan with a true freshman. That's asking a lot. You lean on Emory Williams' experience at that point, and you see where this new identity can probably take you. I do have one more point, though, on the DC search.
Get it.
And we can everybody wants to talk quarterback. We will talk plenty of quarterback there. As it pertains to this DC search, I want to credit the University of Miami for how well they've kept this hidden. Here's my approach to reporting. I don't do it to get clicks. I don't put misinformation out there. My role as someone that is plugged in, I'm not a journalist. I am a member of the media. There is a stark difference. I don't adhere to journalism rules, but if I bring something to you, it's because I know certifiably it is a fact. And the only time I bring something to you is to clear up misconceptions or flat out lies out there. That's what I did with Kendall Briles when his name was out there. That's when I veer into this. In my entire life with my sources, I have never heard. I have run about a dozen names by this person that the internet has pulled, that other people have asked me to ask my sources about. I've asked about a dozen names. One came back as a confirmed candidate. So the internet doesn't know what the hell it is talking about when it comes to Miami's DC search. And I'm not going to be the guy to tell you exactly who's involved. That's not how I operate. I don't ask my sources, well, can you give me a couple of names? I'm not begging like that. I just ask for confirmations or denials. The only person that I can honestly confirm to you that there was some online conjecture about was Tyler Santucci from Georgia Tech, and he decided to stay put. And there was a New Year's deadline when it came to his contract because his buyout went up, I think, up to $3 million after New Year's. We weren't the only program sniffing around him. Texas A&M and Mike Elko came sniffing around, and I believe for the moment, although I don't think Texas A&M would balk at a $3 million buyout, as it stands right now, he decided to stay where he's at. That is the only name that I've seen people talk about on the internet that I've run by my sources, multiple sources, to confirm, are they actually in this pursuit? All the other names that you've read have not been in this. And if they were, it was maybe a cursory phone call. But in terms of legitimate candidates, the internet, the message boards, they don't know jack crap about this search.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's how it goes. And I know you're legit. I know who people you talk to. So he's not just saying it. I can confirm, not that he needs it, that he's talking to real dudes and he's giving a lot of accurate info in the group chats here. And he's going to give it, if you see it for the soups or on Twitter or on the show from this man, you could take it to the bank. A couple questions I want to get to, Mike, before we keep rolling. So Stephen Aveo, appreciate your support. He wants to know, can Marquise Lightfoot be a dude next year? I got to say, I'm happy he's still here. When you saw the blowout on the sideline.
That was crazy. I did not expect him to be here.
He's, the guy can play. He's fast. He's physical. He's gained weight. But he's the player is what you thought coming out of high school from a skill set standpoint. Again, needs to gain weight. He played on kickoff this year, which is unusual for a defensive end. Shows you how fast he is. But the fact that we have all three of the skinny, I'll call them just the skinny defensive ends that we got last year, Lightfoot, Pickett, and Rudolph. I thought we'd lose one of them at least just because that's how it goes when you get a lot of similar guys at once. But to have all three of them here in spring, let them go through workouts, see how the weight's coming on, I think that's a big win for the Miami Hurricanes.
I don't know if Marcus Lightfoot can be a dude next year. If you're asking me eventually, maybe. I saw him in the Under Armour game like that. He flashed. I've stood next to the guy. I can't believe how small his frame is. And you say that he's got to put on weight. It's going to be difficult with that frame. Now, his body probably isn't done growing. He can we've seen frames increase. Look, Lamar Jackson entered the league. I was very concerned about his frame. And now that dude puts punishment on defenders. He's hard to tackle. His neck grew. So it's hard to project that stuff. But his body's got to come a long way next year to be a dude. I don't see it next year.
Fast, which is going to help. And he's tough. That's the one thing about him. He's physical. He's not a finesse guy, even though, like you said, his frame is on the thinner side. He is tough. That's why he put him on kickoff, because he's fast and he doesn't mind collision. So he's got that going for him. Obviously, you saw, hit the mic there. He's got a little bit of edge when you watch him, fight with Simeon Barrow on the sideline. So he's got some of that.
I was encouraged by that a little bit. I mean, not in that moment. There's a time and place, but that was when the Miami defense was getting their butts kicked pretty good. And the optics were that he was kind of challenging guys that were playing to get in the game a little bit, and hearing that criticism from Lightfoot, especially like a dude like Barrow, who was pretty good last year for us, I can understand why that gets under the skin, but I don't think that's bad friction. And it kind of came and went. I haven't heard anything about it since.
And he's still here. You see that in, that happens in college football. That's not a crazy occurrence. You don't want too much of it where it's dysfunctional, but that happens. It happened on 2001 team. It happened on a lot of the great teams, both behind the scenes and even on the sideline. Comment from friend of the show here goes to Navon Donaldson, said, watch the Bob Dylan biopic. Can't get over the fact that D-Money looks like Joan Baez. I sent the picture, Pete, in the private chat. Let's see. I will say that in that whole folk scene, she was the only good looking one. So I'll take that as a compliment, I think. Joan, we'll see. I don't know. I don't really see the resemblance. But
D-Money's biggest twin is Sandro Tonali, midfielder for Newcastle.
I don't know who that is, but just off the description, I'm sure the guy pulls chicks.
I've shown you him before, and that's a lot.
First teamer European
there he goes.
Football player pulls chicks.
Is that me right there? I don't see it. I mean, I guess she's got black hair. Good looking young lady there.
I guess.
Goes to Navon Donald, said, I don't know. I'm not a big folk. Do you like folk?
But that's the real Joan Baez. Is Joan Baez in this film? I haven't seen it yet either. I haven't seen a complete unknown. So maybe the actor.
This is your twin.
Oh, that's my guy. Look at
This
this
is your
guy.
twin.
Look at that. Look at that stud. That's the guy right there.
This is him.
That's the guy.
You don't
right.
see it, Mike? I mean, we're
No, of
giving him,
course
we're
I
giving
see
him
it.
a lot of credit, but
Hey, listen, I'm not the one saying it. You guys are saying it.
That's a further evolution stage of the Pokemon. The Pokemon.
Are you a folk guy? Talking about folk music?
I'm not a Dylan guy. And Dylan's influenced a lot of my favorite artists. I understand the lyrics, although Bob Dylan lyrics kind of feel like a random lyric generator at times. Like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I'm not one to dissuade anyone from telling me how influential he was. I haven't seen the film. Maybe I'll come away. I've tried with him. There's just certain guys that I've tried a lot with because I love music. And I like Jack White's my favorite active musician right now. He idolizes Bob Dylan. And to not really get what Jack White gets is a little disheartening, but him and Bruce, man, I've tried with those guys. It's just not for me.
Yeah, I hear you. And just folk as a genre, it's funny because I love classic country, like 1950s, 1960s, 1940s country. I can get into all day.
I do like Joni Mitchell though.
Well, it's okay. That's folk. But
Yeah.
when you take away the Southern accent from the same exact type of song and you put a turtleneck on the singer, you lose me. I'm like John Belushi in Animal House. Remember when he smashes the guitar on the wall and the guy's just playing that little song on the acoustic and he just smashes the guitar? That's me with folk. So maybe that movie will get me into it.
Hey, Champy's in the comments. Good to see you, man. Thank you for watching. Telling me that I need better taste in music coming from Champy when anytime I hop in your car, you're just playing the same album from 1997 is quite smooth.
Yeah, Filette's a grown man with twins and he's
still somehow
in
stuck
his
in the
40s
late 90s.
and he cannot hear anything other than
there's new
90s
there's new
New
stuff
York
out
rap.
there, Champy. There's new stuff out there. Just broaden your horizons a little bit.
All right, so let's see. We've got some more questions here. Steve Posada asking, do you believe the portal replacement has to be a big game guy? By the way, great seeing you the other day down in Coral Gables. It's been a while since then, actually, but that was good to see you.
Is this as it pertains to a quarterback?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. The first game is a pretty big game against Notre Dame, right? So you don't want your quarterback, your new quarterback to go out there and lay an egg on national TV against Notre Dame. And I think that, to your point, Stephen, I think that plays into what they're thinking is, who can we try out against Notre Dame and feel good about our lives? Because that is the first game. And I know when Florida was the first game, and I would talk to people inside the building about, personnel moves, they'd be like, man, can this guy help us beat Florida in the first game? I mean, that's really how their minds focus, is that next game up. So I think, to your point, Stephen, you want a guy that you could feel credible against Notre Dame and not go out there and just kind of, lay an egg.
I have a name that I can put out there.
Throw a name out
that
there
we can debate as we're still mourning the loss of Mendoza here. There is a name that I like, and we in a group chat that we had, we did a deep dive on some tape. And I understand there are concerns, and I understand he's not coming off a great year. Okay. And there were reports out there a couple of weeks ago, and I'm really curious to hear Pete's feedback on this. There were reports out a couple of weeks ago that he was re-upping. However, this player has graduated. He already did senior day, and he took a bad team. He's played a lot of football. And if you look at his stats from 2 seasons ago, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the nation. And I think if he were to come to Miami, he could potentially win a Heisman Trophy down here. That's how I hold this guy in regard. And if you've been watching these shows on Wednesdays, for about a month straight, your boy was locked in on Kansas Jayhawk football. I think learning from our Mendoza experience, which is like, he's there, go grab him. This isn't a portal. This is a different thing. This is a graduate transfer. All right. I really hope we kick the tires on Jalen Daniels. Pete, I'm curious to hear your thoughts here. And watching the tape, yes, I know there are bad picks. Look, at this point, there aren't perfect options out there. But this is all about beating Notre Dame, having confidence in your quarterback. This guy's played a lot of big games. And unlike Miami last season, he's beaten ranked opponents. He's outperformed, and he's not surrounded by the kind of talent that he would be surrounded in Coral Gables by. What do you think of that name, Jalen Daniels, Pete?
To me, he's a better version of a Thomas Castellanos in a sense. He's a bigger
much
body
better thrower
than him. He's a better thrower. I mean, look, the numbers don't back it up from this past season. I don't know if I agree with your statement of the Heisman. He could win a Heisman down here, but I do think that if the offense is kind of built around him in a sense, with already the strong running game that you expect to bring back the offensive line, and then I still, think that maybe you add another weapon in terms of a pass catcher as well, then it could be a good fit with considering with what Miami has up front, and you can kind of build around his skill set there, but it would look completely different than what we saw with Ward. And I don't know that Shannon Dawson in recent years has had a quarterback who's necessarily, as run heavy as him.
I get the Castellanos comparison a little bit because this guy's like 6 foot that's listed, but we might be being generous there. I think Castellanos is a terrible thrower of the football. I think his field vision is really bad. I actually think a better comp for Jalen Daniels when I watch this and I think most people would sign up for this player right now if he were available, especially given our recent experience with him, is Haynes King. However, Jalen Daniels is a much better thrower of the football than Haynes King. You may not know that because I know Kansas isn't on TV all that much and we're not really thinking about Kansas Jayhawk football here. But this guy's got the capability of having some real big-time throws. And in Shannon Dawson's offense, I learned 2 things from last year. I want some big-time throws, and I want some mobility that Emory Williams does not bring me. Jalen Daniels does both, and I think you can get Jalen Daniels right now if you were interested, because you don't walk senior day when you're not a senior. If you're not sending a message, come get me. I think if you were to plug him in here, we would feel a lot better about that Notre Dame game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of upside with Daniels. The worry with him is, size in general. I would prefer more size. Now, you had Oklahoma.
It's a college game. You're not going to get a perfect quarterback.
And Oklahoma with big offensive lines had a Kyler Murray, a Baker Mayfield. Not saying he's the same caliber of player, but those guys, similar size, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the back injury. Backs, that's a tricky injury.
Well, don't touch him. Don't let him get touched.
Don't let him get touched. Right, exactly. But he runs, that's part of his game. He's not just
he's a smart runner. Yeah. He's a smart runner. Like, he's aware of that back injury. I hear so the back injury last year, he lost his offensive coordinator, right? And he really seemed to struggle with that transition. And then midway through the year, they caught fire, as we know from covering them on this show. Your key concern with him is the back or the decision-making?
The size, the back, and that all feeds into the decision-making, right? Because if you can't see the whole picture, sometimes you're going to make worse decisions. If you're worried about getting hurt or you're physically not right, sometimes that leads to bad decision-making that you wouldn't make if you were otherwise where you want to be. Again, you had a big drop-off in decision-making from year to year, so you wonder what caused that. Of course, you mentioned offensive coordinator. We're seeing him in the college football playoff right here with Penn State, so that was a transition, but you have a new offensive coordinator here, right? So you can't just take a huge step back into a new system. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep.
It's not necessarily apples to apples, but I understand. And this is a player that could be like when classes start in Kansas. Not that I haven't looked this up. January 21st. All right. If he reports to class, then that's off the books. That's not an option. So you have a window here of time. It's a different situation for a grad transfer. I just think he's a really solid option given where we are at right now. Like I see comments right there. Drones. I understand Drones probably had one of his better games against the season. There's a lot to like there about Drones. Jalen Daniels throws the football better than Drones.
Yeah.
He's certainly more accurate.
They're both inconsistent.
He's both certainly. I would take Drones if I had the option.
I might take Drones too if he's healthy. The thing with both those guys have health problems.
Yeah.
I take Daniels over Drones.
So Pete, go elaborate on that take.
I just like his size, man. I think it's important to have, especially since he has the running ability. He does have the injury, but I think it's like we saw the element of having a power run game this season with Damian Martinez. You're going to have that again with Fletcher. I think if you have it with the quarterback position as well, and a guy who you saw Cam Ward, his ability to extend plays this year. Drones, we saw that against Miami this year. So that's something he can do. So not anywhere near Ward in terms of the passer, but Drones was a guy who had legit NFL interest before this year, was not consistent again. So you wonder, is that consistency ever going to be there as a thrower? Ward's always been a natural passer. He's not like Drones is going to test better than Ward is. Ward is a really good athlete, but in a different sort of way. Right. So Drones, to me, I think with the right talent around. I was talking to someone yesterday who follows Virginia Tech closely, and And I was asking him about that, and he said, "Look, I just think in Miami, he has way more around him, and the protection would be better than it was this year too."
I also think you kind of need to upgrade the talent though at the skill position for a player like Drones. You probably have to do that regardless.
I
Whoever
think
the quarterback
I
is.
would like to see another running back added. Maybe a guy who's a utility piece, return man. We've talked about some guys on this show who.
I mean, we got 3 we feel pretty good about, right?
Yeah,
Pringle, Fletcher,
you're losing-
Lyle. I feel great about
yeah,
Lyle.
but Pringle's
see.
still a true freshman. I mean, you don't want to rely on that. I think he can be someone who's in the mix.
Oh, yeah, those Martinez
Yeah.
takes from earlier in the year didn't age too well. You guys, next time a Hispanic player comes on the scene, maybe withhold judgment for a minute.
Well,
here.
also like I did watch the Pop-Tart Bowl against my better judgment, and one of the things that I wasn't fully aware of was how out of shape Damian Martinez was at the start of the year. They mentioned on the broadcast, you were at the game, so you didn't hear this, that when he turned things around Louisville, he was 12 pounds lighter than he was at the start. So that might have affected his more plodding running style, and he got a little bit more used to it. So yeah, Damian Martinez got better and grew into the year. He also physically got better. So there's a little bit more there that I wasn't even fully aware of. In the chat real quick, I see that you guys say Daniel signed a new deal with Kansas in December. Yeah, I saw that too. He's a grad transfer. Classes start on January 21st.
Yep. Grad transfers is what you're looking at here with all these in general.
Yeah.
There's one off the board, though. There's a big one off the board, fellas.
This is really surprising, and this might actually open up the door for a quarterback that prior to the college football playoff might have excited some folks. This is a pretty bold move. They went to
what is this? You're a 5-year radio vet at this point?
I'm about to get to it. The news report is, for those without the benefit of the video accompaniment, those watching on the stream know the graphic that is up. Tyler Van Dyke has transferred from Wisconsin to SMU, reuniting with his former offensive coordinator. This is curious because they presently have a quarterback that SMU, Southern Methodist University, went to the college football playoff with in Jennings. However, Jennings, it's rare the time that I watch a football game and I wonder aloud, is this guy on the take? Jennings was terrible.
When was the last time you felt that way? I bet it's probably a pretty familiar name.
Yeah, Jake Garcia.
I was thinking about the guy that just committed to SMU.
Tyler Van Dyke was also there. Yeah, we've had a lot of those. This is a really surprising move. It's not surprising in his end destination, and we know his relationship with Rhett Lashley, had played his best football under Rhett Lashley, but they kind of had that position solidified, no?
You think so? But look, you never know how someone's going to recover from a bad game like that, right? We've seen it. We saw it happen with the guy that just signed with.
It was a total meltdown.
After Georgia Tech, he was not the same player that we had seen. He was always, he was never a perfect player. But Tyler Van Dyke, pre-Georgia Tech, was not throwing interceptions like he did at Georgia Tech and following. He would make mistakes, but he wasn't that kind of player before. And he changed. He was gun shy. I mean, he was just a shell of himself after that particular game. So with Kevin Jennings, especially the high profile nature of that game, maybe they're saying, look, we like him, but is he going to be, could this be a source calling?
That's a fine.
That's
Trumbull, Connecticut. I do not believe this is a source. I love this.
That's Jim Mora.
That's Jim
Send him
Mora.
a
yeah,
voicemail.
who's the
He's
quarterback?
pissed off at you.
Who's Miami tampering with?
Yeah,
Who's the
At
quarterback
UConn.
of UConn?
There's a little button there on the side to make that go on vibrate. Next time it's going to be a $5 fine to the charity Mike choice. But Tyler Van Dyke
Kane's Connection. That's the charity of our choice right now.
Is Tyler Van Dyke using his last year of college football eligibility to ride the bench?
I think he's going to win that job.
So then what does that do with their quarterback, who, by the way, I don't want?
Yeah, exactly.
I'd midway through the year, wanted. Tail end of the year, that was a full-on meltdown, Tyler Van Dyke-esque. I don't know if Jennings can dig himself out of this. This may sound ridiculous. SMU should have won that game. They should have won that game. They had a half a dozen opportunities in that first half to take that game by the balls. And Jennings, it got predictable at point. I would sit back. I was with my buddies at Twin Peaks, and I would sit back. And as soon as he took the snap, I'm like, Jennings is going to do the worst possible thing now. And he somehow did something worse. I have never seen a quarterback melt down quite like that. Credit to Happy Valley and that crowd. it must have been something really intense. But the guy just looked like he got monstered.
By the way, guys. Oh, here we go. Yeah, it was cold as hell too. That's another factor. And that Penn State defense is insane with talent. But listen, guys, who does Miami play next year in Dallas, Texas?
Wow.
You see that? We'll be there, right? Yep. What's the place we went to last time? Katy Trail for the LSU game. I got there a little early. I was kind of overserved that day. Probably one of the reasons why I don't drink anymore.
I think they might have your photo on the. You might not be able to go to the Katy Trail Ice House.
That was at the peak of my weight gain, so maybe I can slide in. That Hooters shirt did not fit at all. I was tighter than a Hooters girl.
Great memories. Great memories. With
it was awesome. I think it's like when I first met you. Might have been that day,
I think so.
So we'll roll back there. They'll have great food at that Katy Trail spot, but they will not have the best Cuban food in the world, which is available at Islas Canarias. We already have comments about Islas Canarias. We don't have to do the plug.
We had a holiday get together, you and I. We had the Canes Inside holiday party at the dining pavilion.
It was a feast.
I must have missed the invite.
Well, we were talking about letting you go.
Exactly. You passed the cut. Yeah. We were doing the year-end kind of budgeting.
You'll be happy to know you survived it.
You survived it.
D-Money was like, he pounded the table at the dining pavilion. I was like, okay.
That's it. I was in a good mood because I was having my jackfruit bowl, which you don't have to be. You could be a meat eater at Islas Canarias, as you can see. In fact, it's probably too much meat, man. How much meat did you take home that day to the family? I mean, that was like a feast for 4.
Yeah,
it's never too much meat.
Also, home of the largest bistec empanizado I've ever seen in my entire life.
There it is. Goes into Valdosta before you even said it. The largest bistec empanizado in Dade County. So listen, you want quality and quantity. Islas Canarias, best Cuban restaurant in the world. You can go out west if you want to get the original flavor. But look, you go to Dayland Pavilion, the food court, they got the same thing, and it is same quality. It comes out fast, even though the line's out the door. I mean, I was seeing people on you from since I was 4 years old in line. It was like a family reunion out there because everybody in town is at the dining pavilion for Islas Canarias. Just an unbelievable spot. Shout out to John. Shout out to the whole team.
Took care of us.
Oh, big time. Big time. And the kimchi croqueta. You
got me in a good enough mood to be like, okay, we can keep eater.
Kept Pete. Thank you to I think that was the classic ham that did the trick, which is of course voted annually as the best croqueta in Miami. So
yeah. Scuba Steve, I see your question maybe you're late arriving. I don't expect a DC DC.
Wait, hold on. We got a shout out from Tony Valdez. If you go out west to the classic Islas Canarias locations, go see Matica, the best waitress in the biz. Shout out Matica. We appreciate you and all you do for the Islas Canarias customers. Shout out to Tony, man. What a drop right there with Matica.
Don't expect any news on the DC front until at least early next week. That's at the earliest.
And produced by PAC TV. Ask any more key staff changes. I think that entire defensive staff is going to be overhauled. I'm not saying every single one's going to be gone, but I think, there's going to be a lot of changes.
It's largely dependent on who they bring in, right? And I don't have any leads for you. I don't know who the lead dog is right now. As I established at the earlier part of the show, that's not how I do my reporting. I only report to clear up misconceptions. I assume they'll bring in a DC who's got a few ideas.
I'll say this because I do agree that a lot of stuff around the search has been BS, but I said when Lance Guidry was fired that I had heard that Pat Fitzgerald was around Miami practice this year. D, you said they share an agent. I think that is someone who realistically could be in the mix. Obviously, the situation with Northwestern, how things ended there, complicates things.
If I may, I checked in on Pat Fitzgerald. It is my understanding. Now, things could change from a couple of days ago, but I checked in last week, and I don't think Pat is going to accept another job until his situation,
which I understand, I understand completely.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
I think if Mario had a choice, he would be the one.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just don't think Pat is ready. Right. At least he wasn't ready. What I heard pretty strongly was he's not going to accept a job until his legal matter gets cleared up.
And just so those who are listening, this is not a case against Pat Fitzgerald or like a criminal case or a civil case where he's the defendant. He is the plaintiff trying to get money from Northwestern. And if you're trying to get money from insurance companies, from tortfeasors, and you have been the victim of an accident or someone you care about has been the victim of an accident, dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733 for Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine.
And as it pertains to Pat, for the type of case that he's going through right now, taking a job doesn't exactly help his case in terms of maximizing his return.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. So
I mean, you're a lawyer. You would advise against that.
if the timing doesn't, it's so perfect to the fit. I hope the timing works out. There's ways to. These cases typically don't go to trial, right? So the trial date's in April. These type of cases, by the numbers, just do not go to trial statistically very often. Trials are rare. I was an attorney. I mean, still I'm an attorney at a law firm that handles these kind of cases money wise, and I went to trial like once in 13 years. I mean, these cases tend to settle. Not all cases settle. Anna Jar and Levine goes to court and they'll get your money if someone, they're not going to take less than what you deserve. But these kind of cases tend to settle, especially with big money entities involved. So I would not be surprised if it settled, but the timing is, tricky. I do think Pat Fitzgerald's a perfect guy.
Yeah.
We need I know he hasn't called the defense, but we need a head coach of the defense to just say, hey, this is what we expect. These are the players I want. This is the way I want it to look on film. X's and O's are great, but this defense had no personality, no edge, didn't run to the football, didn't know what was going on within the scheme that they were being coached on. It's just, I don't know if Guidry was an X's and O's problem. I didn't love the way he used the defensive line. I didn't love all the stunts, all the games, but I think it was more of a problem of preparation, culture, attitude than necessarily X's and O's.
Attitude's going to be the one that I seized on because, look, Mario is very keenly aware of what your complaints are because he has the exact same ones. And as we've covered before, Mario has shown, may not adhere to your timeline in your head, but he has shown year over year what you complain about, he addresses. He sees it. He's got eyes. In the middle of the season, we all saw the direction this arrow was pointing in. It is my understanding that Mario Cristobal asked for certain adjustments to be made on defense, and we were either incapable or the defensive coordinator just kept doing what he wanted to do, and that's an alignment issue. I don't think that alignment issue would exist with Pat. I think Pat, you want to talk about approach to the game and mentality, he and Mario are very, very similarly cut that way. But again, as I understand it, pie in the sky, not a real candidate here. Someone's asking in the chat, Prod by Pack TV, any word on Coach Dawson possibly getting head coaching offers? I can confirm he did receive head coaching offers, but Shannon Dawson's not going to just take any job. He was in the mix for, I think he was like maybe in the mix for that UCF job, as I understand it. He just wasn't like finishing top 3 in that coaching search, but it's got to be kind of like a job like that. He's got a good thing down here. If he has another good season, his reputation will only grow, and he will always, like the Southern Misses of the world, the Colonial Athletic Conference type jobs, like he's not just going to go grab those jobs. He's not going to go to UL Monroe just because he wants to become a head coach. It's got to be the right situation for Coach Dawson.
Yep. You got a comment here from Mo who's saying, appreciate you. He says, Mario's the man for the job. Extend him.
It's got a pretty long deal.
Let's
get a quarterback, huh?
Yeah, let's get the exact.
Let's see how year 4 works out for the recruiting base head coach before we extend him. But I do think that Mario put to bed a lot of the concerns for him. Even the game management. Everyone wants to be all ticked off because we didn't go for 4th and goal from the 12 as if we were going to stop Syracuse anyways. We were in a lot of one-score games, and there were a lot of situations where people in the stands and people on social media were criticizing Mario Cristobal's decision-making, and they were wrong. It's not a very sexy thing to say, hey, Mario, you got that right. Miami was good in those one-score games, not just because of their quarterback, but there were plenty of times in those games. You may not remember it because you have convenient memory and you just want to seize on the time that it didn't go right in your opinion. Mario Cristobal pushed all the right buttons this year. From even the Syracuse move, by the math, that one was close. And I understand you want to go out with your Heisman finalist quarterback. I get you. I hear you. But anybody that was blowing that out of proportion just has an agenda against Mario Cristobal. He put that narrative to bed, at least for a season. And he certainly put to bed the quarterback narrative that had surrounded him. And by the way, he won a Rose Bowl at Oregon. Can't say the same for the guy they got right now.
And Mike, we have a comment here from Toby Rohrer. He says, can you clear up the silly Aaron Glenn rumor? He's not leaving the NFL, right? It's crazy because I heard if Dawson left to go be a head coach somewhere, they were going to bring in Ben Johnson.
Yeah. I have not run that name by my sources, and I don't intend to.
Yeah, I think the direction's more the other way, right? With pro to college or college to pro, just because you don't have to recruit, you don't have to deal with these 1-year contracts, which is what NILs effectively become. So I don't know that many coaches that are running to the college game. I mean, Bill Belichick, to me, the so-called GOAT. Of course, we all know Don Shula is in fact the GOAT and never had to go to the college game because he had no opportunities in the pros. But Bill Belichick went to the college game because he didn't have any opportunities in the pros. Although a report just came out from Tom Pelissero. See if you can find that. I just saw it pop up on the notifications that Belichick's still kind of flirting with the pros, even if he's at North Carolina. Go ahead.
Yeah, I asked Diane and Rossini on the Levitard show yesterday. Like, look, his buyout goes from $1 million to $10 million, and that's kind of funny. It's like got a June 1st date on there. So right now, if someone were to sign him, it'll only cost him $1 million. But even if it gets prolonged, I don't think the Khan family would be like, well, we're not going to pay $10 million to get Bill Belichick. The reason why he has that contract language in there is because he'd like to go. And I would say, as someone that's probably more bullish on his prospects, because I respect him, and I thought he did very well, by the way, in that press conference. You're very much a guy that's like, you won because of Tom Brady. Look at your numbers without Tom Brady. But you have to give the man his flowers, and he does pretty well in being able to disarm folks and saying, when I got there, Tom Brady was a 4-string quarterback. Okay, we developed Tom Brady. And if you remember the way that Tom Brady won his first couple of Super Bowls, he wasn't the Tom Brady that was, airing it out to Randy Moss and being a prolific passer. Tom Brady very clearly got better as his career went along. And he was aided by Bill Belichick. He was, whether be it the staff or the personnel that he put around him, like that Patriots defense helped Tom Brady build the foundation to his legacy.
Bill Belichick's a great defensive coordinator, and he built the defense. That's number one. You talk about when he got there, Tom Brady was the 4-string quarterback. The 1st-string quarterback was Drew Bledsoe, who, by the way, was the highest paid quarterback in the league when he got there. Mm-hmm. He did terrible with Drew Bledsoe.
Who made the call to stick with Tom Brady?
Okay, he did terrible with Drew Bledsoe. Drew Bledsoe leaves and makes the Pro Bowl his first year away from Brady in Buffalo. So when you talk about Brady getting better, I've never seen any quarterback not named Brady get better with Bill Belichick. In fact, they all get worse.
Matt Castle got better with Bill Belichick.
Matt Castle didn't start until he started with Bill Belichick. And what happened when Matt Castle left Bill Belichick to go to Andy Reid? Mm-hmm. Made the playoffs as a starter. Did not make the playoffs that year with the New England Patriots.
He made the playoffs with Mac Jones.
Guys, a comment here from Jacob Groder says, can we expel the rumor about DC's hiring their own staff? It doesn't happen. They may bring one guy with them. It's not so much about bringing. It's not like a guy's going to bring every position coach with them, but Miami struggled on every level of the defense last year. So whether he brings his own guy in or not, it may be Mario who has someone in mind for in one of these other spots, but like, I think Mario and the new DC will make those decisions when they come in, right? It's so again, it may not be that if it's someone coming in from, let's say a Santucci came, right, from a Georgia Tech. It's not that he would bring the D-line coach, the linebacker coach, the safety coach. He may bring one coach with him, but I have a feeling it's going to be more than one new coach in terms of position coaches there on that side.
I agree, Pete. Great read on
And by the way, Mohammed Hussein, I would never miss your super chat. Don't worry. I was just trying to get the transition right. So don't worry. We're not going to miss your super chat. In fact, let's pull it up right now. This program never spent money. There's Mo Hussein. This program never spent money until Mario showed up. Without him, not so confident the money will still be allocated the way it's been. I agree with you. And I think the real pro Mario argument is, look, this guy was at FIU and they had no money. And they had no wins. I mean, they were literally the worst program in the country when he got there, by every metric, resources and present success. And he took them to 2 bowls and a conference championship. So that shows you what he does without money. Goes to Oregon, which did have resources, but they couldn't pay players like they do now. Right now, Oregon's buying players.
Allegedly.
Well, but they weren't even that much of a bag school at that time. The SEC was much worse. Phil Knight's not out here sending bags. When it's legal, he'll do it. But so they had money, but they didn't have money to buy players because that wasn't a thing. And he won there, a team that wasn't very good when he got there.
Just a bitter Miami guy.
Won a Rose Bowl.
Everyone else can cheat.
SEC has been cheating the whole time. We'll have that conversation right now. But then he goes to Miami, first 10-win season or second 10-win season in 20 years. So he's been at 3 spots and he's had success at 3 spots. The Miami success is limited because he had 2 rough seasons to start. And look, we're staring at potentially a rough season next year. I think next year, a huge year for Mario as far as his Miami tenure. He's got to keep us relevant. That's a note. And right now, this current roster, much improved in certain ways, huge holes, particularly at quarterback, got to get it solved. But SEC,
Well, if I may, like the Muhammad point there, school president's different now. And the entire business is going to change. I don't think Mario was a kick-ass culture changer. And you could say Lane Kiffin is a better head coach. I was in that camp. And if we had the resources and the foundation and the collective that we had today, back when we were making that hire, I probably would have been in Team Lane. Yeah, he'll probably jump to the NFL in 2 years, but let's have fun. But we needed a culture changer. We didn't have those things. I think you can say we have those things in part because Mario helped put those things in place and change the culture. However, now that he's built it up, I don't think that the spigot gets turned off now because I have full faith in our school president. And the business of college athletics is going to change. So when you say the money is not going to be allocated the same way, who knows what becomes of collectives? I think Mario is really great at activating these boosters and getting the resources that he needs for talent acquisition. Probably better than most coaches out there. But I feel way better about the athletic building and the school president now, much better than I did back then. And he's as you know, Joe Echeverria is crazy about Canes athletics.
Yeah, I want to get to that point. By the way, and Chancey, appreciate your support. So about Joe. So I went to the women's basketball game on Sunday. You were there too, front row, touching wood, as Pete likes to say, right there in the front row. Where Pete's going to be here for this UM basketball game today. So we were there. Tough loss. You know, they came back.
That was brutal.
Yeah, should have been a win. That was a tough one.
The ACC is really tough in women's basketball. Georgia Tech is really good. This is a bit of a skid. It seems as though Miami got fat off of a weak schedule a little bit.
Well, that was when they had to have. But the point is, by the way, before I even get to this point you're making about Joe, because I want to get to it. The woman, I'm interviewing now several of the women for Storm Sessions, which coming out next week.
Are you in?
Oh,
this is one of the great secrets in town. This is the team is so great. The program is so fun.
So fun. I took my daughter. Storm Sessions, keep an eye out. That's the official show I do with UM Athletics. It's on the official UM channel. You can Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I've done, all the top football players, basketball, and then we're going to do women's basketball now as well. But yeah, awesome experience. I mean, Haley is a beast, man. I couldn't believe her rebounding at her size. Haley Cavender. I mean, obviously everybody knows her from the TikToks and their sister, but man, she is a baller, a great all-around game. But now getting ready to interview these girls and learning about them, they all have 4.0s, they all are obviously great at athletics.
They all have great personalities too. Like, I
don't know what's up with the men. I mean, I don't think anyone in this room was performing academically that way in high school, or certainly not athletically. So what the hell were we doing out there? Well, these girls were doing everything in the world.
Men's basketball, Pete, we do have a big game today, green and orange game, big time rival against Florida State. You're touching wood today. I would literally rather almost be anywhere else. This team has got me so depressed, but you're a Canes hoops lifer. What can you expect from this men's game here? What are you actually looking for here? Is there any chance that we can retain some of this talent here? I know we've already had one 4-star portal and piece out because they have 30 days to do so. So I guess we're all on Bethea watch here. What do you anticipate? And what has you even optimistic?
That's what sucks, man. That's what D and I were talking about before the show too. And I say it. Remember, I do these post-game instant reactions brought to you by Arees Law, areeslawpa.com. But yeah, man, so I do these shows and it's always kind of like the same thing. It's like, man, who should I be excited about for next year? Because the way things have gone, let's look at the young guys. There's a lot of guys who don't have eligibility. Brandon Johnson, Lynn Kidd, Nigel Pack. So forgetting about those guys, who could you potentially bring back? Jaleel Bethea, that's been a roller coaster this year. I see him probably not staying the way things have gone. I'd be pretty.
Who would
surprised.
Enjoy this experience this year? It's not what he expected.
Yeah, Austin Swartz. He's getting a lot more minutes now with Pack being out, and I think that he's someone you need to continue to rely on because he's a confident player, can fill it up, and if you're him and you like Miami, you like going to school here, you like the experience, then whoever they bring in and hire as head coach, you like him and you like his idea and they want you, then that could be a guy that comes back. Divine Ugochukwu, I think easily as well. But again, the problem is how do we know these guys aren't already lining up their destinations for next season? Unfortunately, right? So it's hard for me to kind of get too excited about each of these guys individually.
Sounds like the answer there is nothing. nothing has him excited or optimistic.
Well, by the way, Jaleel Bethea, I was going to get to the point on Joe at the game. We went to the women's game on Sunday. Joe was there pacing like into it more than anybody. And Jaleel Bethea was also there, sitting right next to you there, touching wood as well.
Mhm.
Kind of
I was like sandwiched between he and Shalala.
yeah, right. It was an all-star
Bit
cast
of a
down
motley
there.
crew there.
Katie Meyer was down there as well. I
She's
believe.
always at the game.
Yeah. So it was, but anyways, so if you go to those, he likes being here. He's around. He's at football games, so maybe there's a chance. I like Devine, man. If we can keep Devine, I think he's a 3-year player that goes on to the NBA and really is the face of your franchise.
It's so cute, your approach to women's college basketball. Yeah, the men's team I saw Wooga and Norchad there all the time. So
Kane Scott C
That's true.
5 Kane Scott C says, "Sell me on why I need to go tonight, Pete. I have
FSU.
I have no sales job to give you.
It's hashtag beat FSU.
And FSU's in shambles too right now.
In
so
shambles? In
They're
shambles.
shambler.
So Pete, by the way, pull up the thread I just sent you, Pete. So by the way, we're talking a lot about quarterbacks jumping in the portal. You want to keep up with all the latest on this stuff. Go to CanesInsight.com, 7 million posts and counting. Just to give you an example, there's a thread on there about quarterbacks in the portal. This thing's got 9,000 comments, 764,000 views, 445 pages of comments. The move's getting a little desperate lately. People are actually talking about you, Mike, and your info on the pod about Jalen Daniels. That found, or not info, your speculation on the pod
that was
about Jalen
me.
Daniels.
Like, look, I don't think Miami's even done a heat check on this. So that's just me looking at the lay of the land, caping up for someone that I'm a fan of. And again, from watching this show how much Kansas Jayhawk football I watched. I think he's a talent. I think the numbers last year, if you want to just run a Google search and look at last year, I get you. I'm not going to push back. I think there are contributing factors as to why the touchdown to interception ratio was what it was. I think he'd be closer to what he was the previous season down here. And the tape doesn't lie, man. There are just some really high quality, special throws that this guy is capable of. He's played a lot of football in his day. He comes in with leadership skills. This is a guy that would be a grad transfer, so he's a learned individual. I think he's a mature individual. And given what we saw from that quarterback position, not just from a skill level, but an ability to galvanize a team and be an actual leader too, I think he's pretty capable of that. And that's no knock on Emory. From my understanding, Emory's got some leadership qualities and that the guys rally around a little bit too. But there are a lot of checks in this column. And going into that Notre Dame game, not the same situation because the Florida game was so huge for proof of concept. This Notre Dame game, ultimately, you're starting your season, you lose it. Notre Dame may be a national champion by then. Your season's still out in front of you. But I'd like to feel better about my chances going into that game, and I would certainly feel better if Jalen Daniels were my quarterback as opposed to Emory Williams.
He's got starts. By the way, let me clarify this.
Kyle says, D, you may want to stick to football. Saying Devine's going to be the face of an NBA franchise is insane.
Maybe
this guy believes in the Heat year after year, so I do
big
agree
win
with
yesterday,
that
by the way. But that was those two things got conflated, by the way. What I said was, maybe I stumbled up my words. He'll be the face of this franchise, the Miami Hurricanes franchise, and then ultimately play in the NBA. I don't know if he's going to be the face of an NBA franchise, but I think he is a guy that could be the face of this franchise, the Miami Hurricanes basketball program, for a couple of years before then going to the NBA. Kane's got saying he doesn't play defense. The guy can play defense. I've seen him in flashes. He's a true freshman. He's got the body.
Consistent effort on that end has not been there as a team at all. The energy's not there.
He's got defensive upside. Yeah. He's a great driver, elite driver of the basketball.
The whole team, and Kane's Catsy says he's lost. The entire team is lost defensively.
Yeah, everybody is. I mean,
this is as bad as it's been down here in a long time.
Well, we got a comment here from let me see, pull it up here.
Since last year.
Someone had a comment.
Last year was very disappointing because that was one of the more loaded teams. Yeah, but this is, at least you knew that even there was a little speck of this team can get hot in the tournament because they're so talented. They've got, this is one that was, from a talent perspective, that was one of the more loaded teams in Miami history.
Yeah, the depth still wasn't there. The big man depth was not there.
Yeah. So. Well, some people try to help there.
Jason Cohen saying, speaking of that, Cohen,
what a name.
Jason Cohen saying baseball's terrible, basketball sucks, and football's average. So basketball sucks. Men's basketball sucks.
Yes.
Football is not average. We won 10 games. That's above average.
That was one of the better years in 20 years.
Yeah,
It was a top 2 season in 20 seasons.
It could revert to average or worse, so we're monitoring that situation, obviously, but I wouldn't say football's average. Football, this is a good year.
A lot of programs would kill for that.
Disappointing, but, it was not average. Baseball last year was absolutely terrible. I have some faith in baseball just because this portal class is much improved. I was at pretty much every scrimmage in the fall with people that are deeply involved in the game. I'm talking about MLB executive, former MLB executives, former college players. So I was around people that, know baseball a lot better than I do. I'm a big fan of baseball, but people that actually, know the game at the highest levels. And everybody thinks this team is much improved in terms of the pitching staff, the depth, particularly. We had good starters last year. The pitching depth is extremely improved. The depth of hitters around Cuvée is extremely improved. We'll see on the defense. I think that's going to be the biggest question, but I do think that's going to be, Kane Scott was there very loud. He was calling out, Kane Scott. Let me tell you something. Okay.
Well, you have Mark Light in studio right now, and you haven't asked him his opinion. Mark, what's your thought?
Wait, hold on. Before we get to Mark Light himself, Kane's cat. So there were like 5 people, not 5. There were, let's say, a dozen people at Mark Light for these scrimmages. Family members, scouts, right? Me, and then Kane's cat Heat 305 was there. Kane's cat Heat 305 was screaming instructions to the players like a parent at a youth game, and very much like the parent at the youth game. A lot of times those instructions were incorrect of what to do on the field. So Kane's got Heat 305. I love you. You got to be more quiet at these scrimmages, man, because these guys are listening to you. They could go make a mistake. Let the coaches coach.
Sound carries.
Cheer for the good plays. You know what I mean? Take notes. We could talk about what's going on. But Kane's got Heat 305. Got to keep it down at the scrimmages.
What a madman.
Mark, your thoughts on the upcoming baseball season?
I believe, man, big portal haul. I produce all these baseball shows brought to you by Salah Law.
Cox,
and Cox. So I've been hearing all the good stuff. I'm a JD believer, so
can't wait to be going to the light with you, man.
Yeah, best atmosphere in college baseball. Nothing like it.
Yeah,
I am Mark Light.
I mean, I guess that commenter was right to seize on. Like, okay, well, we thought we'd be in a better spot right now with Coach L off of an Elite Eight and Final Four appearance, and the women off in the Elite Eight, and football. Last year was really a good season. It should feel a lot better. I understand why it doesn't, because of how everything went down. It felt like we lost multiple games down the stretch, because I'm including the CFP judgment that got handed down. By the way, before I continue on that tangent, my overall point is that in actuality, it's better than it feels because of all those factors there. CFP.
Let's talk about it.
Let's give them credit. They got it right. Once Clemson won, all those teams that we were all having knockdown, drag-out fights about, they got left out. And not that I can read into bowl games at all, but that narrative quietly died. South Carolina didn't even know who they were playing, according to reports on the field. They thought they were playing Syracuse, according to one player. I think Miami showed in that first half what they were capable of. Miami probably acquitted themselves the nicest out of the teams in that bunch. Alabama looked like a team that would lose a hypothetical Alabama by 40 points. So that narrative went to bed. Like, look at the Final Four right now. You got 3 2-loss teams. Everyone's picking Ohio State to be the college football playoff national champion. Let me tell you something. Ohio State would not be in the college football playoff if they did not expand it.
They shouldn't have been. They lost.
They wouldn't have been. Penn State would have been over them. Ohio State, the odds-on favorite to win the national title, would not have been in the CFP had they not done this.
Thank you for bringing this up. I hate the CFP, as you know. I think there should be 4 teams max, and 4 teams was already too much, but sometimes you need them, like 2000, the year when you had Auburn, Utah, and some of these other teams.
You need
USC.
more for the parity.
Let's talk about this stupid CFP. So do you remember we came on this very show, the same show, we discussed Martinez and Restrepo and certain other issues that have, come to pass. But we discussed the Oregon-Ohio State game, and I said this in any other year would be the game of the century. But in this stupid year, we're going to not even care a lick about it in 2 months. And you said, no, it was a great game, a lot of fun. Does anybody care about that Oregon-Ohio State game now that we've seen Ohio State in the second crack at the apple completely dust Oregon? It meant less than nothing. It meant less than nothing. And I hate that. The regular season is totally meaningless with games like that.
I actually disagree. The regular season mattered quite a bit for our Miami Hurricanes.
Right.
So, and it mattered quite a bit for a lot of teams that were on the outside looking in. It mattered a lot for Alabama. It mattered a lot for South Carolina. It mattered a lot for Ole Miss. So, no, I don't agree with you.
Two lost teams that would have been out anyways on the old system.
No, but I don't agree with you there. Like that Michigan loss, like, yeah, it probably would have mattered more. But let me tell you
about that one.
But let me tell you something. You know what's standing in the way from these games actually mattering? Because I actually felt like the regular season mattered a lot. There were a lot of meaningful games. Week to week, there were college football playoff eliminator games. You want to say when I look back at that Oregon-Ohio State game, does it mean anything? Yeah, it meant a lot to me. That game was awesome. These conferences and these matchups did bring about awesome matchups. That was an awesome game. The people that are actually standing in the way of making the regular season matter are the people that are airing the games. Because if we're going to go along with this, and yes, the one thing that you could say about an expanded CFP is, but I love how much the regular season matters. Regular season matters plenty. The people that don't make it matter are the people that trot out their tired-ass takes about Alabama needs to be in the CFP every year as if they didn't lose 21-3 to Oklahoma. No, the regular season matters. You're the guys that are trying to make it not matter by just writing in Alabama, writing in South Carolina, writing in Ole Miss, doing the same lazy thing. And Kirk Herbstreit, where do you get off? I saw this podcast appearance, if I may, where you tried, meekly I might add, to say, what's up with this whole SEC narrative? Look at the Final Four. We couldn't have picked a better Final Four. Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State. Way to cherry pick a friggin' argument, Kirk Herbstreit. You, of all people, are saying, where did this narrative come from? It came from you, dog. Indiana shouldn't have made the CFP. No one was saying that. You had months to say that. You didn't say that until they lost. I am so sick of that show in particular standing in the way of their own property. Why do you want to take the air out of the CFP? We're all trying to make it seem something like it's something that's awesome. People are going to hold on to their take saying there's too many teams. So what are you going to do? Make sure that they stay in their place by crapping on a team? Indiana had a good season. On merit, they should have been there. Did they game the system by having a weaker schedule? Yeah, maybe evaluate the weaker schedule. But don't come out here and lie to me and say Indiana shouldn't have been there when none of you who had every ample opportunity to say something about it didn't. Indiana was not a talking point. I saw all your programming. They weren't invoked with Alabama, Miami, and Clemson and all that, and SMU. Not once. Bad faith argument. Don't pee on my boots and tell me it's rain.
Love it. Love the energy. I agree. Kirk has fallen off the deep end. I don't know what's happened to Kirk Herbstreit. I know
forever changed by that FSU thing. Forever changed.
I mean, I know he lost his dog, and this may be a take that should stay in the group chats. My wife would probably advise me against saying this take, but the season-long mourning for a dog that's over 10 years old when I got Tom Rinaldi dealing with orphans with cancer, and I got to worry about some golden retriever that's about to die anyways because he's 10-plus years old, and the owner's some multimillionaire. I am sorry. That was over the top.
Well,
that was too much. Kirk, he brings his dog now on every single show. Like people bring dogs into restaurants. Enough with the dogs, okay? Enough with the dogs.
I love the dog.
I love dogs. Enough with the dogs.
I love the dog. I mourn the dog. I mourn the dog. You got to wait a couple of weeks before you bring out the new dog.
Yeah, you moved on pretty quick, by the way.
You gotta wait a couple of weeks.
New blonde right away. New blonde right away on the show.
You don't go public. At least you don't go public with a new dog right away. Like, come on. You got the president writing notes. Everybody felt the loss of that dog. And we just bring a newer dog around. Like, God, I got to build up afterwards. Poor Ben.
Poor Ben. Poor Ben living in a mansion for 10 years eating filet mignon, and the guy passes at the end of his natural lifespan and is the end of the world. I'm tired of Ben. I apologize. I'm tired of Ben. I'm tired of Kirk. That show, it's about Lee Corso losing it. Herbstreit, I agree with you, is 100% losing it.
Here's another issue. It's old Alabama Jones over there because they bring Nick Saban on, the surliest old school character of all time. And instead of making things fun or bringing out the best in Nick Saban, the only guy that's doing that is Pat. God bless Pat McAfee, who last year it was polarizing. It didn't land the right way. A lot of that was because this was very new. God, he's a breath of fresh air compared to the curmudgeons that are on that set right now. It seems as though everyone's trying to play a game of top that with Nick Saban's surly ass takes, standing in the way of actual fun. Guys, this is college football. It's one of the most fun sports there is. Why are you trying to actively make the people watching your show feel bad about loving this sport? Calling people the lunatic fringe? Ohio State lost to Michigan 4 straight years. They are well within their rights to be pissed off about that. They are not lunatics for that. And you're gaslighting them every opportunity that you can by just touting your big media partner and just saying Alabama should be in there. And then you gaslight me more by saying you don't understand how this narrative exists. I watch your programming.
No, it's all right. The Nick Saban eye test, which said Alabama should be in the playoff, is infallible. Remember that Nick Saban eye test, the first week of the season, was telling me that FSU had the best defensive front in college football potentially and looked like an NFL team coming off the bus. These guys won 2 ball games, and Nick Saban eye test is supposed to tell me that Alabama should be in the playoffs. And look, I think Danny Cannell said this, and others have said it as well. And we've been saying it forever. I've gone on a million rants about this, so people who watch this show know. I'm not even fired up about it because it's been validated. When the SEC can't pay players $40,000 in a brown paper bag and actually have to pay the players what they are worth, and other teams are allowed to do that. And Mark Emmert, who was the LSU chancellor and hired Nick Saban at LSU, doesn't have to protect all of these SEC schools as part of his cartel. What happens? You have parity in the SEC, number one. But number two, who's in the Final Four? Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Basically an ACC team.
And Texas. The only reason Texas is in the Final Four because there was a targeting call which was completely blown, and they miraculously hit a 4th and 13. Otherwise, by the way, Texas SEC school, I mean, brand new to the SEC, you wouldn't even have had an SEC school. You certainly don't have a Southeastern school in the Final Four. So when things are even, we see the difference. When you cannot pay every 6'5", 320-pound athlete in the Southeast imagine they were going to get away with buying players for $40,000. How messed up is that? $40,000 can't buy you a long snapper in a real market.
How many blue chippers from down here in South Florida out of the blue all of a sudden relocated to Tuscaloosa to sell cars? Come on, Nick.
You had Samoans in Tuscaloosa.
Nick.
Samoans in Tuscaloosa.
Nick, you got about 45 car dealerships. We know what you're up to, Nick.
I wish I had something I needed to get off my chest, man.
You got to get that bench off your chest. I know you've been working. Dizzy Dean saying, what hurt you guys the past week? I mean, I don't know. We lost to Georgia Tech. We lost to Syracuse. We got no quarterback.
We got no quarterback.
We lost to Pop-Tart Bowl. I got a lot hurt me in the past week.
Mike, I know you have a hard cutoff.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh my God. Yeah, wow, time flies when you're just getting a lot off your chest. A lot of pent-up frustration. Okay, what do you want to do? Song of the week or wrestler of the week? What are you ready for here?
Let's go. Spurt it out.
Happy birthday to one of, if not the greatest voices in rock and roll, with all due respect to Freddie Mercury. You know what? Not even going to compare. It's Freddie. But if we're going next here, David Bowie, top 3 musician of my lifetime. I'm a huge Bowie guy. I've been listening to David Bowie all day today. Why? Because it's his birthday. It's also Elvis Presley's birthday. Right. I thought we were going to do some dueling action, but you've honored the king plenty this year. I'm going with I'm Afraid of Americans by David Bowie, and I love this song because it's emblematic of what David Bowie did. For those that don't know, David Bowie, as an eclectic a music catalog as you can find in the history of music, sonic profiles all over the place, can do funk, can work with Nile Rodgers, and at the same time can work with Trent Reznor. This guy, his voice could go anywhere. His styles could do anything. Him, and quite honestly, the only comp that I would have is Beck. Beck, I think, is a truly underappreciated artist in that his eclectic catalog can go. He can do an acoustic album. He can do a funk album. He can do a rock album. Beck's a great artist, but this is about David Bowie on his birthday. In this track, he worked with one of the hottest acts in rock music at the time, and Trent Reznor, 9 Inch Nails, and he produced this amazing track, I'm Afraid of Americans. I love this song. The song holds up. David Bowie has meant a lot to me in my life. Just a really great artist that I actually didn't know all that much about until my late 20s, and then I really got into him. In fact, I was revisiting his most recent album, his final album that he wrote knowing that he was going to die. And he brought in these great producers, and he was kind of explaining to his fans what would happen. And if you visit it with that information, it's a really profound album. It's not going to be bangers, but it's very deep, including the lyrical content. David Bowie, style, stage presence, influence, as great a musician as this planet has honestly put out in terms of just being a sheer superstar that would push boundaries and would push the means of musical ambition beyond levels that you could even comprehend. David Bowie was a superstar. He was Ziggy Stardust. Rest in peace, David. Check out that song. And then when you check out that song, check out all the other songs. David Bowie is one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, I'm a big David Bowie fan. Love David Bowie. Love this song. Love the combination. He worked with other artists really well. As well, kind of like before this era of collaborations, he was one of those first guys to collaborate with other musicians like Freddie Mercury or like Trent Reznor, like what's the guy, Bing Crosby?
Yeah. Oh, that was
Hope,
a beautiful moment in time.
Remember,
He would
the
champion other artists, protested MTV. David Bowie did a lot of great things, put a lot of great musicians on radar, would go across rock music till his dying day and kind of crown the next people. I was a big Arcade Fire guy at a certain point, and he would his voice would pop up, his disembodied voice would pop up in one of the songs. He was a fan of music, fan of the arts, and he was a great mentor to many, an all-timer.
Love David Bowie, of course. Happy birthday to the king of rock, the greatest of all time, Elvis Presley. I won't get into that, although if you want to have an Elvis song of the day, I would say, Trying to Get to You on the 68 comeback special was outstanding as well. You guys can see that on YouTube. Anyways, by the way, before we get off Bowie, you're talking about the diversity of Bowie, and the only one that compares Beck. Now, Beck, to me, a little overrated for my taste. Didn't have many hits.
I would take him, though.
Carson Beck. Carson Beck. Listen.
Bar, Peter.
I'd take him in a heartbeat. That's the guy we need.
Stuff, Pete.
That's why I paid. That's why we paid him. That's why I made
I was
that
going to
call.
say Bowie was a heck of a DN.
No, Beck is Carson
Beck is
great.
not overrated. I think Beck is underrated.
Hey, I'll give you something in terms of the most diverse artist since Bowie. If I told you that somebody toured as a hip hop artist with Ice Cube, opened for Ice Cube as a hip hop artist, then became the top nu metal act in America, #1 on the charts with nu metal, then this same individual brought back Southern rock. This same individual had pop hits that were #1 on the pop charts. This same individual was on the country charts.
Stop right now.
I mean, I'm giving you facts.
Stop right now.
Kid Rock is the most diverse artist since David Bowie. There's no compare. I mean, who else? Look at the stats. Look at the stats.
He's a sample merchant. Okay. Sample merchant.
Sample merchant.
We can't sing. All right.
So hip hop artists are allowed to sample, but Kid Rock can't sample.
Kid Rock sampled every genre that he went into, and samples are
David Bowie didn't sample genres.
Samples aren't music. Samples aren't music, but he's a sample merchant. His biggest hits are 100% derivative of, and it's not just like, oh, there is an art in finding a lesser known sample. We're gonna sample Werewolves in London and Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh, huge hit.
Come on.
Huge hit.
Get out of here with Kid Rock.
Huge hit.
The candle to the
Who's done it before him?
Look. Kid Rock is a nice little guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure.
He is on the overrated side of the spectrum. Beck is underrated. Go revisit Midnight Vultures, dog.
Overrated, underrated to me means no one likes this guy, but a couple critics that look like Beck. That was the best quote of all time of music criticism. Was by David Lee Roth. Elvis Costello was the one they used, who is a disgrace to the name Elvis.
People were pissed off that Beck beat Beyonce.
Well, I'm just saying, David Lee Roth said that the reason rock critics liked Elvis Costello is because they look like Elvis Costello. I think you said the same thing about Beck. Kid Rock, obviously, because of his, outspoken nature on certain issues is not in the flavor of the month right now. And I'm not going to get into all that because I don't care about that.
I didn't boo Hulk Hogan because he went on the campaign trail, dog. I booed Hulk Hogan because I have the internet.
Just look at the genres that Kid Rock has conquered with hits, not just done for his own self-indulgent pleasure. Hits in genres.
I had a Kid Rock sticker on a Trapper Keeper in high school. I like Kid Rock's music. Like, of course, it had its moment. I'm not even like the pivot to country. I think it's a smart pivot for him. I think he's doing actually great with his career. I think he's making a lot of great choices for his career, quite honestly, because he's remained relevant. But no, he's not an artist the way that Beck is.
A lot of country artists also opened up for Ice Cube as a rapper and made legendary heavy metal hard rock songs like Bow with the Bow. A lot of people bridged all those.
I'm gonna send you a bunch of Beck songs. You want to espouse the virtues of Kid Rock, you go right ahead, but don't take out Beck on your way.
Shout out to Bob Ritchie. Anyways, so what we got here? We got Wrestler of the Week, of course, Kid Rock in the WWE Hall of Fame. So actually, I didn't even get my song. But here we go. Kemba, worst takes is hating on
Not
a
even
dead
your
dog
worst take of the
26.
show.
Song of the week, Kemba Walker by Eladio Carrion and Bad Bunny. Just an incredible song from two artists that are among the top artists in the world right now, according to streams. Obviously, both Puerto Rican, reggaeton, but they also, can go more on the hip hop side. That is what you get with the song Kemba Walker, named after the former UConn great. The best line I've ever heard in a reggaeton song was in this song. Eladio Carrion rhymed Chris Jericho, the Y2J himself, Chris Jericho, with perico, which is the Spanish word for cocaine. So one of the best rhymes I have ever heard, at least in Spanish. So shout out to these guys. Bad Bunny just dropped a new album.
I love that album, by the way. Just got 5 stars on NME. A really Puerto Rican album, classic merengue and salsa elements there. I love what he's been doing with his musical production with these crazy juxtapositions within song. It's very ambitious. The guy dropped like one of the greatest merengue songs I've ever heard on this album. I can't get enough. A lot of earworms there. Bad Bunny is an artist for all time. Like he is the artist of this generation.
But we got so Craig saying Kid Rock's greatest line is Def Leppard sucks. I think Kid Rock's greatest line is actually I'm in it to win it like Iserman can drink about 16 Heinekens. Rhyming, of course, the popular beer with the former Detroit Red Wings captain. That was a hell of a line. But
he's had a lot of funny lines.
We'll translate from WWE Hall of Famer Kid Rock to your wrestler of the week.
I want to give Seth Rollins some love because he was a consummate professional in letting CM Punk go over on Monday night, which is one of the most viewed shows of all time. A great moment for wrestling history. I will separate the fact that I understand that show was not made for me. It was made to get more people in the tent. I'm in the tent. I'm not going to be dissuaded by a bad show, which it was. Not a fan of how they opened it. Wasn't a fan of the first 2 acts, but I did think Seth Rollins and CM Punk delivered. And it's a testament to Seth Rollins as an in-ring performer to be able to get CM Punk looking that good in a match, because Punk is not what he once was. I think we can all agree there. The injuries have taken the toll and age has taken the toll. They're telling a great story. I'm encouraged that Triple H has kind of alluded to the fact that their story is not done. But Seth Rollins, greatest cash-in in the history of Money in the Bank. It ceased to matter after Seth Rollins, because it was that good. Seth Rollins did carry the company through a difficult time, a lot of bad booking. I was a fan of Seth Rollins when he was in ROH's Tyler Black. This guy, when healthy, certified banger after banger. And when he's not healthy, that's another key thing when it comes to Seth Rollins, because banger after banger. What he did at WrestleMania 40, even though in the buildup, it felt like he was out of place. When you look at the elements of the storytelling that he brought, specific to the Tribal Combat main event and what he's got with Roman, this is all percolating, I think, to like a WrestleMania 3 years from now, where you have like that final Stone Cold Rock blow off. You're going to have Seth, Roman, end of an era type of match, and it's gonna bang, because the story that they've been telling over the last 15 years is so intertwined. Seth Rollins, consummate pro for that company, always espoused the virtues of WWE when it was not popular, when everyone on the internet was crapping on it and running to an alternative. Seth Rollins was a consummate company man when it wasn't popular to be. He would perform night in, night out, would get better on the microphone, would constantly evolve his character. Things that struggled to get over, he would eventually get over. I think the world is Seth Rollins. I'm bummed just from like a pure justice standpoint that he didn't get to go over on CM Punk, but I understand. And he understands too, more importantly, where the business is going and the money that CM Punk can draw. That, again, is akin to what I've always said about Seth Rollins, which is a company guy. Think the world of him. Love good social media follow too. Loves his football.
Or
Seth,
hates it.
Yeah, hates football. Seth Rollins, you're the man, and I think you deserve a shout out here this week, especially after that result on Monday.
I'll be quick because I know you got a heart out. By the way, Seth Rollins is like the Bret Hart of this era to me. Great on the mic, good, very good on the mic. Obviously, great in the ring, just rock solid. CM Punk, by the way, his work. I've never been a big CM Punk fan, as you know, but I thought he had the match of the year last year against Drew McIntyre, and I thought he's learned how to adapt his style to be an older guy, and I think that suits him. He shouldn't be doing all this top rope stuff.
It's a credit to the guys that he's working with in WWE are playing to his strengths and also weaknesses much better than the guys in AEW. In AEW, he probably feel like I got to prove I'm still that guy. I think his experience here, he understands what he's got to do. And so he's more of like a Randy Orton storyteller, which is this isn't going to be all high spots, but by the end of the match, you're going to be off your seat and on your feet. So credit to him. I would say that Bubba Ray Dudley had this take. I'm a big fan of his wrestling takes.
Me too.
He's earned that spot at that Monday night spot, which is bigger than any WrestleMania. He earned that through his actions. And I got to say, he's been a pro over the last year and a half. He's happy where he's at. He's also full of crap because he wants to throw out all these barbs about Vince. I know who was in charge when he resigned.
Yeah, it's like Kyrie Irving. You're just waiting for the blowout. Real quick before we go, my wrestler of the week. Speaking of cash-ins, Tiffany Stratton, Tiffy time herself. Cash in. There you see her pointed to the watch. That's what time it is. The next superstar of WWE cashed in, won the women's title. You look at obviously the look is there. Super strong weightlifter, gymnastics, almost made the Olympics. So she's got the athleticism. She's trained by Greg Gagne. So she has the traditional wrestling, old school AWA training as well. Has the it factor, really lives her character, lives her gimmick. What I love about her, you can say the same about Bianca, you can say the same about Charlotte. You cannot say the same thing about a lot of men, including, a lot of the men coming from the independent scene, quite frankly. She looks like she's there to fight. She hits girls hard, and she does not look, even though she's a gymnast, she doesn't look like she's putting on a display. She hits hard, just like Bianca, like Charlotte. I think that's what's missing in the sport in general. Then to actually hit hard, but look like you're trying to hurt somebody. She does that along with the great look, the great athleticism. And the pop she got when they showed her face on Raw and Netflix was, aside from Macaulay Culkin and maybe Roman, the biggest pop was for Tiffany's little, 1 second appearance. I thought.
Not the biggest reaction of that show, though.
Oh, yeah. That's a different story. That was.
It's a testament to WWE's approach to scouting in that they look for a look and marketability, and they feel confident in their ability to make good in-ring performers because of the athletic base that they recruit. Bianca is a great story to tell there too. A feather in the cap for WWE.
Body types and athleticism. That's the name of the game in WWE, name of the game in talent acquisition. Mike's out the door. We appreciate you. Miami Hurricane Team store 20% off. Insight 20. And right next to Thesis.
Backline.
P with the back line. Coconut Grove. We appreciate you. Everybody else, go Canes.
We'll see you next week.